Welcome to the EndurHunt podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lukosevic. Join me as I share my experiences as an emergent hunter, offer advice on how to overcome challenges, and pursue your passion for hunting. This is episode 13 of the podcast. It's all about the Texas public land drawn hunts. I am joined by one of my best friends, Taylor Shearrer. I'll be introducing him in just a moment. But before I do that, I just want to say this is a very long podcast. If you even clicked on it and got this far, I appreciate you because I'm pretty sure this is going to be about a 2-hour episode. It's 2 hours because we really dive into the Texas public land drawing hunt system. We talk about the website, the different types of drawings you can do, the species. We set some expectations, and Taylor shares some inside secrets that he has put together that I think are worth sticking around for. Now, those we don't really dive into until the second half of the podcast, but I think it's worth it. That being said, as you listen to the podcast, take notes, think about it. If you have any questions, if you feel like we missed anything, please reach out. You can comment on the YouTube video for this podcast if you're watching it on YouTube. If you are not on YouTube and you're listening to this on either the Spotify video, Apple Podcasts, or one of the other platforms that we're on, go on Instagram. I'm at EndurHunt, EndurHunt. Send me a message, a DM, or comment on one of my posts and just ask the question or provide the insight that you think we missed. I'd love an opportunity to try and answer your questions if you have any additional ones. So if you do think of anything, please reach out. The best way to do that is either YouTube or Instagram directly. With that being said, I don't want to delay it anymore. Let's get into the episode. All right, today I have a very special guest with me, one of my best friends, Taylor Shearrer. And today we're going to be talking all about the Texas drawn hunts and why you should care about it. So I'm going to let Taylor talk about himself here in a minute, but just a little bit of background. He introduced himself to my wife and I the day we moved to Texas 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And
just walk across the street.
Literally.
No cares. Just hey.
When we moved here, one of the things we wanted to do was make sure that we could introduce ourselves to our neighbors. We tried not to be Northeast people with the stereotype that we have. And we were worried that we were going to have to introduce ourselves to everyone and how we were going to do it. Well, they all made it very easy for us.
Yeah, welcome to Texas. We do that for you.
Yeah, no kidding. But Taylor and I have had a few opportunities to hunt together for predators and some other stuff. And it's been fun doing that. And now we're going to dive into this podcast. So before we do that, Taylor, why don't you talk about your background and your history with hunting?
Well, first off, Andrew, man, just thanks for letting me come on. You know, I feel like besides maybe your wife and Peter, I've been one of your bigger supporters, I'd like to think. I mean, who can forget the time that I literally, without you knowing, recorded us having a whole conversation?
Oh my God.
And I straight up sent it to you and was like, dude, I really do think you can do this. Like, I believe in you.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We were driving down, so he'll get to it, but his family has a little bit of property in South Texas. And we were driving down there. I don't even know what we were talking about.
Hogs.
Yeah,
hogs,
and
that's
right.
We're
going to do that.
Right? Yeah, no, we are.
We are going to have that as a podcast.
But just our differing in opinions when we think about them.
We have very different opinions when it comes to hogs. And he was trying to convince me that we should do a podcast. This was before you were a dad, too. So your life's changed quite a bit since then.
My life's changed extremely, yeah.
But I am doing this podcast now. This is episode 13. So getting there.
Man, and that's been the cool part as someone real close to you is getting to watch you do it, watching this thing grow, and then now getting to be on it. So, man, I was just want to tell you I was thankful, humble.
I'm happy to have you on. Hopefully we have many episodes together.
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah. So I guess in regards to the topic at hand, right, and we're going to talk hunting because, you know me, I can talk forever, and I'm a multifaceted person, I'd like to say. So we could go down a lot of roads. But in the world of hunting, kind of what is my background there? So I grew up in Pleasanton, Texas, Atascosa County, really commonly kind of known as the gateway to the brush country, start of the brush country. If you're not familiar, it's about 30 minutes south of San Antonio. So the town I actually grew up in, if you're headed south out of San Antonio, you cannot miss it, literally. The town sits in between 281 and I-37, so it doesn't matter how you're going, you're going to run right by it. But if you're big into whitetails, right, then you know where I'm from. Atascosa County and then those surrounding counties, and then even as you work deeper south, are known for just really great whitetails, extreme whitetails. I remember one of the first times we were headed down there, and you just literally turned to me, you're like, there's so many high fences.
Oh my God. You can't miss them everywhere. The closer we got to your place, the more high fences and hunting ranches you see. And there's low fence ones too, but let's be honest, anyone who's driving around loves to look at the high fences because they want to see what's running around on the other side.
exactly. So if you're a big hunter, that's really where I grew up. And there was a thing, and at the time, it wasn't that I necessarily didn't respect it, but I don't think I realized how lucky I was growing up as a kid. Again, so at the time, and I know the town's grown a little bit, but at the time it was a smaller town, still kind of is. I went to a 3A high school, 100 kids in my class, and just in a big farm community, so just everybody had land, everybody hunted. It was just what you did. And so at the time, I didn't think much of it. Now, grow up, get to meet you and our story, and I understand it now. And then, so my family actually has a feedlot cow-calf operation. So my great-grandfather started it years ago, passed that down to his oldest son, who then passed it down to his oldest son, my cousin Mike, who runs it today. And don't quote me exactly on the total number of acreage. I don't know the exact number. But man, it's probably up there in the 10,000 acre range now in total. And that's multiple different places across the whole entire county and some other surrounding counties. And Mike's, man, he does a really good job with that operation. He's always expanding it. But essentially, man, I was able to hunt that. And again, it's one of those things that now I see how great that is. At the time, I necessarily didn't. But long story short, I probably killed my first whitetail at like 7, 8 years old. I've killed a bunch since. More hogs than I can even fathom. Tons of predators predators all day. My grandfather, which, at some point he'll come up in more podcasts, but my grandfather was one of my number one hunting inspirations, and he loved dove hunting. That was one of his favorite things to do. And so, honestly, we did so much dove hunting growing up. Yeah. It's why, you're always like, oh, dove hunting. I'm like, dove hunting, whatever. I just don't have that. It literally, we did it so much, it wore the coolness and the newness off of it.
Man, dove hunting is just different, though. I was trying to explain it to someone I work with the other day.
It's a social event more than it's hunting.
It's a social event more than it's hunting. It's the exact opposite of every type of hunting that I do, and I think that's why I like it so much. Yeah. And it's in September, so it kind of kicks off the season if you don't have an early season tag, and it just gets you back into it. It does. Gets you really excited for the other seasons.
And for the most part, cheaper than a lot of things.
Yeah, especially when people who have land to do. Well, I mean, I've got a buddy who's got another friend that has at least 15 minutes away from here. I couldn't ask for anything better. Even if no birds come, it's like, who cares?
Right.
It's a lot of fun regardless, but yeah.
And so essentially, long story short, anybody out there, if you're thinking stereotypical South Texas hunting, I've done it. I've done it all. I've done it more than multiple times.
Well, you've done a lot of
that's fun.
Yeah.
But now I'm at a point in my life where I'm looking for more.
Yeah.
I want to expand from that, and we'll get more into that. But that's kind of where my big draw. And then the other cool thing that I think kind of qualifies me a little bit in regards to some conversations, and I never took this for granted. It was always a big deal to me. My grandfather worked for Rifles Incorporated for over 10 years. If you go look them up, they're one of the number one custom lightweight rifle makers. They really cater to your backpack community. They're big in the sheep hunting world. They've been around for a long time, but they boast that they make one of the lightest, most accurate rifles on the market. Don't quote me exactly to this, but I want to say it's less than 5 pounds without a scope. I mean, they calculate it within ounces. And so because of that, man, I've shot more cool guns than you can think of. I've got to see more cool, trophies than you can think of. I've got to hear all these stories. My grandfather got to go hunting in South Africa, Argentina. So I got to be surrounded by that. And there's no doubt that's been a cool thing in my background. And then obviously, as you know, my father is a gun. I don't even think the word enthusiast.
No, I don't know how to describe him.
No, I don't know if there's
He is the pinnacle of tinkerer, because he doesn't technically manufacture things, but if you can tune it, mess with it, build it, or make it better, he's done it.
He's done it.
I mean, and he works for Rifles Incorporated now.
He's been working out there part-time now as well. And man, if y'all get a second, if you're listening to this, go pull up their Facebook real quick. A lot of the last 6 months have been pictures of really cool carbon stock designs, and that's my dad.
Technically, it's your fault because your dad's only making them because you wanted it.
So it all started with I wanted to build a Western hunting base gun, and I know we'll do a podcast later about this. But new school met old school, and I love the carbon looking composites. Every stock they've ever made is a carbon composite stock. It's just they make it in a way they don't care about the exposedness of the carbon.
Yeah.
They're going to paint them. They call them painters. So you can make a mistake because they're just going to Bondo it and smooth it out. But I wanted an exposed carbon stock, and so that's led them down this road, and that's something they've never done. And so now they are now, in typical my dad fashion, they are off on a whole nother level trying to do different patterns and weeds.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
So not only do you have experience with guns and just hunting in general, you've also done a little bit of land management and whitetail deer herd management.
Right. So in regards to that, so on the other side of my family, on my mom's side, so my family actually still owns my mom's family's original homestead. So again, if you know about South Texas, that's going to be right outside of Falls City. That's Karnes County. So if anyone out there knows South Texas, they'll have some reference. And so that 100-acre homestead is now actually, through inheritance and buying, is now actually all owned by my mom, my aunt, and my uncle. And about a little over 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, I was given the ability to start managing that place. At least to all of everybody, immediate family's knowledge, that place hasn't been hunted ever, if any, in a very long time.
Yep.
And it is you've been there. I mean, it's a special habitat.
Oh, it is. It's got everything.
It's got everything, and that's the cool part, right? I don't know many 100-acre spots that are going to have. It literally has an old quartz quarry. It literally, one of our borders is a river, a very nice active river.
A perennial river. It doesn't go away.
Correct. Does not go away. It is all year. And then enough sections of it are still so dense. There's tons of bedding activity.
Oh yeah.
And so, like I said, I'm a fanatic when it comes to whitetails. I love them, and I don't just love them from a hunting perspective. In the last 5 to 6 years, I have dove into the management and have enjoyed the nutrition side and learning about them and watching them and the husbandry of God's creation. And yes, it's private land, but we are low fence.
Yep.
So we are low fence, and everybody around us is low fence, and so it's they're not mine, and so, but we are lucky enough that given our geographic advantages,
you've got a lot going for you.
I do, between geographic advantages and honestly what I've done from a nutrition standpoint the last few years. It is real cool because now I have multiple years lined up of getting to watch deer grow and develop and change, and so so I've been doing that the last few years.
And as an outsider, your herd in the 3 years that we've known each other has significantly improved. And the numbers are extremely healthy. I mean,
oh my gosh.
You don't have a lot of does, which you said that's historically.
Yeah,
never
historically
had,
that's that county's problem. Yeah. They actually have a doe rule. Different counties in the state have doe rules. That's one of them. And we're one of them. We got multiple pictures last year where you'll see 16, 17 deer in a frame.
Yep.
And I'd
They're
say
all bucks, basically.
Basically all bucks, but maybe one or two.
Yeah.
And we do definitely, one of the things me and Andrew are trying to work on is predator control. I definitely have a predator problem.
Yes.
Because historically, if you know about whitetails in an open setting, not a high fence, fully controlled, but in a low fence open setting, historically, whitetail deer actually don't have a great success rate with their young to start with. It's kind of hard to get them through patrician, and then even post-birth, you tend to have about a 50% success rate with the fawns, with the leading thing being predators.
Yeah, and you've got all of those. You've got coyotes, you have bobcats, you've got raccoons, and you also have turkeys sparse on your pot,
every now and then, especially that creek bottom camera that we have, always catching some turkeys.
And you've got hogs. Well, I feel like the hogs come and go.
Man, they seem to come and go for some reason through the pictures. Sometimes we have a bunch, and sometimes we don't have any, which is crazy because that area is known for gazillion of them. But we definitely have struggled because I've watched over the years. We have a hard time. I'm lucky right now if I get about 2 to 3 new fawns a year. If I get 3, that's crazy. Last year we had 2.
Yeah.
So last year I ended up with 2 new fawns, and that's
one of the things that you've learned as we've explored your property last year too, the other side where we don't really go and you're not hunting.
Yeah.
They could be there, and it's just you don't know what you don't know and what you're not seeing. So there's a chance that the fawn recruitment is better, but there's something going on with your herd because you tend to have like those mature bucks, you get a couple of young ones, and then there's just no does. They're like never there. It's weird.
No.
But all of that aside, we're here to talk about Texas and the Texas public drawings that are coming up. So before we dive into all of the applications, the resources and everything, I think it's good to take a minute to just talk about the differences, because you've shown interest in both Western and Texas hunting, the difference between applying in Texas versus applying in other states out west. So one of the big draws for non-residents specifically is you get the same odds as residents like you and me, and you get the same cost. And Correct. It is extremely effective to apply for different hunts in Texas. But the system is unlike anything you've ever seen before. I've applied in just about every Western state, been doing that for a few years now. And Texas uses what's called a loyalty point system. There are other states that have loyalty points, but nothing quite like Texas. Texas has cubed points, so every year you apply, your number gets cubed, and that's how you go into the pool. It is a random draw based on the loyalty points that you have. So very different than the bonus point system you'll see in some states, or preference points that you'll see in states like Colorado. To make things more confusing, not only do you have those points, but the points are specific to the type of hunt you're applying for. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go on in the podcast, but just know that Texas does have a very favorable application system. The draws are generally really low, depending on where you're applying. We're going to talk about that more, but generally the primo hunts, like every other state, you'll be applying for a very long time.
Some of even the generals, I heard this saying and doing, the research that I've been doing, again, to talk to a guy. One of the guys literally said, he made the comment that there were sheep and goat hunts with better odds than some of these. So keep that in mind.
Yep. But we're about to dig into all of that, and we'll start with what our specific goals are. So when you're applying and those points get cubed, it's basically like a raffle. Mm-hmm. It's a random draw. But if you have 1 point and you go into the pool, it gets cubed. So, actually, I think 1 point's still technically 1 point because you're multiplying one by one. But let's just say you have 9 loyalty points and someone else is going in and they have 10 points. The guy who has 1 point or the guy that has 3 points, they could draw. It's just the more loyalty points you have, the more tickets you have in the system, the more likely it is that you're going to draw.
I think of it a lot like anytime you like buy raffle tickets and you go see the big tumbler, right? It's the same idea as that giant tumbler. Mm-hmm. And so the more points you have, that's just the more tickets get thrown into that tumbler, and they're going to roll that tumbler around, and one guy is still going to reach in and grab a ticket out. Yep. Which means if all I got is one ticket, I can still be the one ticket that gets drawn, but statistically and theoretically saying, if I got more tickets in the tumbler, I got a better chance of getting.
Exactly. And so that's actually another good thing to talk about. It's not like Western states where you can buy points. So for states like Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, you can buy points. Some states like Wyoming and Colorado, there's like a points only period in Wyoming, which is actually about to start here in a couple of weeks. You have to apply to get the point, period. Mm-hmm. And you actually get your point when you apply and go into the application. So even though I've only been applying since 2020, I have 4 points.
Right.
In some categories. I haven't applied in every category every year. So that's the other thing that sets Texas's draw system apart from other Western states. Yep. But if you're looking for a new state that you want to try and go and have some very unique experiences in, this is a state you should be applying in. Yes, the odds are low, but if you're creative, you do your research, you can find hunts to go after.
Yeah, and we're going to give them some.
Yes, we are. So to kick things off, let's start talking about our own goals for applying, because we have 2 slightly different approaches with how we're going into this application season. So let's get you kicking it off. What are your goals for your application season and your focus when you're looking at Texas?
Yeah, right. And Andrew's going to dive a bit more into it, but essentially, guys, like he's already said, there are a gazillion different directions that you can go with this. And when you dive into it, I'm going to say the website's not bad, right? So it's the Texas Parks and Wildlife website. And I think it's a nice looking website, but the first time you ever log on, because this is the first time. So even though I've lived in Texas my whole life, hunted in Texas my whole life, I did not know this existed until this year. And so I dove in, I jump on the website, I'm like, because I got an email. And if you're in the state of Texas and you had a hunting license last year, you got the email as well. And so you click on it, you dive in, you go, whoa. Because like you said, there are a gazillion different options, categories, hunts, species, blah, blah, blah. We'll dive into more, but there's a lot. And so I think it's really, really important that, yes, have a goal. Have something you want to accomplish off of this, or man, you could get really lost in it. So for me, it simply goes back to one thing. I have hunted South Texas and everything it has to offer my whole entire life. I am so ready to go hunt something else. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop hunting those things, but I'm ready to explore. I'm ready to start writing my chapter like, my grandfather and my father before me. And so, I've had a lot of interest in Western hunting. Mm-hmm. As Andrew already mentioned, I'm now a dad. Me and my wife have a beautiful little girl that is 9 months old, and she has really changed a lot of my perspective. And so being able to stay in the state and get some of those experiences is really cool. But I really want to hunt something that I never have before. Yeah. And what does that start with? For me, at least, exotics. January. Last year, you and I got to go to Dallas Safari Club, which if you've never been to Dallas Safari Club, I highly recommend it. Me and Andrew pulled off one day last year, but I'm going to be honest, you need to.
Yeah, 2 would be good, because we definitely were just like skipping a lot of boots, and it would have been nice to be able to just hang out and look.
It felt like speed dating.
And there were so many cool things that I just wanted to look at. The thing that was surprising, and it probably shouldn't be because the Safari Club, all of the international hunts.
Yes.
I don't have too much interest in that, and I know that I think you feel the same way for the most part.
For the most part.
Some of those European hunts are interesting,
some
like
of the
for
Europeans
stag and some of the other,
your
like
New
ibex
Zealand red
and
stag
stuff.
was interesting to me.
But Dallas Safari Club is so cool, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to go again.
For sure
in January.
For sure we're going. But long story short, my point to it is, man, you start walking through there, and you start seeing the list of exotics here in the country that you can hunt, and you're like, whoa. And so for me, I have 2 that hit the top of the list. They hit them hard, and then now I've got one that I never knew was on my list until after doing this.
I know exactly what you're talking about too.
But for me, one of them is an Axis. I want an Axis. They're beautiful. Dude. They're amazing. Congratulations to Andrew on his beautiful Axis he just killed. And that's one of those. Even my wife likes it. My wife's like, yeah, we can put up an Axis mount, which is, if you're a husband out there with a wife, and my wife supported. She killed her first year a couple of years ago, But obviously, she's not trying to put every head in the world up on her wall.
Trying to find room for an elk is a challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when you're trying to balance the aesthetic of your house with the hunting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And your wife worked so hard to create that aesthetic, right? Mm-hmm. And so Axis is up there. My only problem is, well, anyone who has had a 9-month-old will tell you they ain't cheap. Kids are expensive, and one thing that we found out really fast, because while we were there, I stopped at every single booth that offered Axis hunts. Poor Andrew probably got tired of it after a while.
No, it was pretty good.
But one thing we found out is they ain't cheap.
No.
Nope.
I mean, I paid for mine. I know exactly how much.
How
exactly.
Much it costs. And that one wasn't even the worst. We saw.
Well, the thing is, and this is what you focused on too, is you wanted the experience. Because let's be honest, if you search Texas Facebook groups, you can find canned hunts where you're going to sit in the blind, you're going to shoot them over a feeder, and it's like, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that.
Would I do it? Yeah.
I've shot whitetails over feeders, like out of a blind.
Tons.
Yeah. I think it's an effective management tool. I think it's extremely effective if you're trying to get someone into hunting. Mm-hmm. But for someone who's been doing it for a little bit, you want a little bit of variety. You want a different experience.
Agreed.
And even though I did a high fence hunt, it was on 660 acres. They were completely free ranging around. Like you could see it in front of the house you're staying in, or you'll see it on the top of a ridiculous hill and you have to shoot really quick. Like
anybody who hasn't, go back and listen to your podcast. It wasn't like that hunt was.
Oh yeah.
Yo, walked out there the first evening under feeder and shot an axis. Like but axis are a big one. For
yes. Sure. And then
second was all dad, and since I was very, very young, so and I cannot wait to get you out there, and hopefully, I really hope one day you could do an interview with Lex. But the office out at Rifles Incorporated is this big office at the front of the shop, and it's basically Lex's trophy room, which the man has killed. The man has darted a rhino. He literally has and they dart them, they take measurements and pictures, and then they recreate it, and it's in their house, actually. But the guy's done the African Big Five twice. So he's killed everything, but he has a full body mount of an all-dad. And I remember being a little kid, my grandfather was out there working, and we'd go out there and everything, and I remember just being obsessed with that thing. I still am today. I want an all-dad ram. I don't think I want a full body mount, so don't worry, Lindsay. But yeah, we're not putting a full body all-dad in our house, but I want an all-dad.
Yeah.
And I've actually looked at all-dad hunts for a couple of years. And again, same thing. I'm not really in a position in my life to be dropping that level of money either. And secondly, I kind of want the experience behind it as well. And so those are my two big things. So when I dove into here, the first things first was, hey, how can Texas Draw Hunts provide me the opportunity to get to go experience that? And as well as, and there's not as many here on these, but also mule deer. I want a mule deer.
I'll talk about mule deer. Don't worry.
I'd like a mule deer really bad. But I would say if you asked me, hey, what if you could only have two, or what would you pick? And I would say all-dad and axis. And then now, if you said I could only pick one, I don't know. I might reach for one of the all-dads because I'm really feeling those right now, and I think the experience and what I think Texas Draw Hunts, if you get the right one, offers a really cool experience to do.
Absolutely. But that's contingent on you doing research and making sure you're picking the right ones. So
correct.
Perfect transition to my application goals and strategies. In the past, and you and I have talked about this, I never gave, I've applied since the year we moved here. I've been applying every single year. But I've never given it the same level of dedicated research and thought as I do Western hunting. I mean, to be fair, there is no go hunt for Texas yet. No. You're making a pseudo go hunt with your fancy spreadsheet.
Right.
And we'll talk about that more. But for me, I focused on a few things historically, and some of that's changed, some of it's the same. Mule deer has always been a big one for me. I love mule deer. My very first hunting trip was for mule deer. Didn't shoot anything, but I want to do it. I'm going on a mule deer hunt later this year. But I apply for mule deer. I apply for every single mule deer hunt that you can apply for the Texas drone hunts. The second thing is, in the past, it was also very whitetail focused because I don't have direct access to consistent whitetail hunting ground. You know, I've been fortunate to make friends with some people that have land, but there's not always opportunities to go and do hunts on those. And I have my Western hunts, which is what I really bank on. But for those whitetail hunts, I've always just kind of looked on proximity. I've always been like, what are the drawn hunts that are within 2 hours of where I live? And that's kind of been the primary focus for me. I would look at the previous year's statistics and just see, what were the odds? And I would use that to be like, all right, if there's 5 options within 2 hours, what are the top 2 or 3? Yeah. And I'll just apply for those. And I would just be like, if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, I'm banking on going out west and I'm going to do that. And that'll be my primary. There is walk-in public hunting in Texas. I can tell you from personal experience, it is extremely difficult. You have heard plenty. And it's not that I won't do it. I will. But it's a grind. If you shoot a whitetail buck on public land in Texas, you are probably either extremely lucky or you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done it, but based off your stories, I'd almost say some of these odds are better.
I think they are probably.
They probably are. Because there are quite a few whitetail hunts where, maybe your ability to draw it might be very low, but the success rate's unreal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The success rates on those, if you draw one, are much higher. And then the other thing is, like everybody else, I look at the exotics. And
Yeah.
what I learned this year as we've done our research is I was doing it in an uneducated fashion, and there are more intelligent ways to potentially get an opportunity at hunting exotics in Texas. But going into this year, I've transitioned a little bit. We've added new types of hunts based on our research.
Yeah.
Some opportunities for joint hunts where we could potentially go together.
Yep.
I've placed more emphasis on exotics. I've basically whitetails have kind of fallen to the back for me. I do still apply. I have points. There's the opportunity, but they're kind of the background for me.
Yep.
Aoudad is my number one that I really want to get. I want an aoudad hunt so bad. I'll let you talk about the other deer when we get to that point, the one we both learned about this year. Obviously, I'm not going to say no to an axis.
Technically.
Well, yeah. Okay. Today I learned that too. And
they're a nilgai?
No, not nilgai, the deer.
Oh, I almost forgot. Yeah, don't worry. We're going to dive into that with the spreadsheet. Yes, we did learn about something new.
I thought that's what you were talking about before. I didn't realize you were talking about the nilgai.
No, I was thinking nilgai.
That's on the list too.
Because I've gone deep the last couple days on the nilgai research.
And then for me, the last thing is mule deer. So I think, honestly, my hierarchy is probably aoudad, mule deer, nilgai, and then everything else.
Our fun one.
And that's in what I want, not what I expect to happen.
Curve expect. And that's the other thing. Going back to, and I think we've done a decent job, and we'll do a better job when we get to my spreadsheet of driving this home. But guys, do keep in mind, because I have reached out to people and in conversation. A lot of this is luck.
Oh yeah.
I've done all this research, but I'm still going to take a lot of it's luck. Temper your expectations, but as we're going to talk about, as you do start accruing some points, and if you are going to focus in and have a goal, well then there are some key ways that I would focus in to give yourself the best odds. And honestly, as people are going to learn, you're not in a bad place with having some of those deer points, as we're going to show you guys today.
And that's one of the things. I think this applies to Texas is the same way it applies everywhere. When you're starting off and you're building points in a new state, you can kind of throw your points wherever you want. But as you start accruing those points, because of the way the Texas system works, and we'll talk about that here shortly, the way the Texas system works, you might want to figure out which units you're going to apply for and what specific hunts. But to close out the section on what your goals are, we've both said it's important. Go into this with a goal, know what you're trying to accomplish, what your priorities are. And then the last thing is you don't have to necessarily focus on exotics or things like that, like what we're talking about. There are opportunities for, if you want a specific hunt, you can look at the different terrain options and see where in the state you want to hunt, because there are options in all corners of the state. You can see different hunting experience, different species. There are opportunities for meat hunts. If you're just looking to fill the freezer, you don't have to look for walk-in access. There are tags that are easier to draw that you can fill the freezer with. And then there's those opportunity hunts where you're just like, look, I'm trying to get an opportunity at a buck, and maybe you're just going to apply and hope the odds are in your favor. The point of all of that is, before you go in and start applying, think about what you're hoping to accomplish, think about what your goal is, and then use that and keep it in the front of your mind as you're looking at the different units, as you're looking in the statistics and seeing what your options are. That will help you figure out where you want to spend your money and where you want to apply and use your points.
Yeah, in a kind of a quick summary of that, guys, and I don't know this yet because I haven't. One day I do actually hope to expand this to the whole entire Texas draw system, because I have honestly, within the last month or so, fallen in love with this. But long story short, guys, I don't know the exact number, but there probably is hundreds of different combinations here. To give you guys just some quick perspective, just within my goal, I applied for 28 different hunts this year.
I have.
And those are 28 different hunts, and we'll dive into it soon, and that's across like 11 different categories. So that's what we mean. If you've never looked at Texas draw system, you're like, why are these guys just driving this home? Because there are probably literally hundreds of different individual hunts across 20 plus different categories. So depending on what's important to you, they really do have it. You just need to have the goal on how to go find it within. Like I said, the website's not bad. But if you don't have it can get daunting in a hurry.
It can, definitely. And I've applied for 27 different hunts. So, and I ignored some things completely. There are some categories that I didn't even apply in, and I did 27. So we're gonna.
And next, I added to.
Yeah,
to you.
You did. So next, we're going to start breaking down what those hunt types are.
Yep.
So we've been talking a lot about how complicated it is, and it is, but we're gonna do our best to break it down for you. We're gonna talk about the availability of different hunts and what you should start looking into once you have what your general goal is in mind. All right, diving into the availability of hunts, they're broken down by type and category, and the category can be general, it could be bow. And it may or may not be for a specific species. We're going to talk about that. And it's also broken down potentially by location.
Right,
you can kind of figure out how you want to search and splice the different data. But in general, there are 5 categories of hunts. And then there are kind of subcategories in there. So when you're looking at the public land drawn hunts, you have your special permit hunts. When we refer to the public land drawn hunts, or if we just say drawn hunts, chances are we're talking about the special permit hunts, because those are the ones that most people are applying for. That's what you can apply for right now.
And keep in mind, even inside of those, you actually have your private as well, but they still fit under our special permit hunts. And essentially, real quick, what the private land is the state of Texas does actually partner up with some private ranches every single year. Those ranchers actually do get a kickback from the state, and depending on species, type, kind, which we're fixing to dive into, there's more or less, but essentially, so you're going to have most of your public as well as your private, and they're all fitting under your special permit hunts.
Yep. So that's the first general category, and we're going to revisit that because we're not actually going to dive into all of the categories in today's podcast. That would take up way too much time. But that's the first one. The second one are your e-postcard hunts. Those are not available as of this recording yet.
August 15th.
August 15th. So that's when you can start applying for those. Those are different because they don't cost anything to apply for. And as with anything that's free, you can expect the odds to go down a little bit.
Yep.
Then you have your
US. And to me, they're not as, to be honest, to me, because I've looked through all of them, they're not as cool to me. I don't think there's many cool hunts, and they definitely don't really expand our main goal.
No, they don't. Then you have your U.S. Forest Service hunts, which is probably the smallest category of hunts.
Again, not very cool,
yes,
in my opinion.
Then National Wildlife Refuge hunts, which is one of the ones we're going to dive into.
Yeah, huge today. Yes. Huge. I think that one's really cool.
And then your last category, and this is actually a different application section. I'm going to provide in the podcast description on YouTube and on Spotify and everywhere else that you're listening to the podcast. If you go to the description, I will have the links in there for these, like the actual public drawn hunt catalog, and that'll show you the 4 sections that I just mentioned. But this last one, the Big Time Texas hunts, that is a separate page. You apply for it separately. It is also more expensive, but they are really cool. There's a lot of different hunt options you can do there, but really the ones that people are going to put in for are the Texas Grand Slam, which, I mean, come on, it's $10, and you could potentially get a bighorn sheep, a mule deer, whitetail deer, and pronghorn. Oh, yeah. Then you have your ultimate mule deer hunt, the premium buck hunts. They have some exotics in there too.
They even have a fishing hunting combo at Matagorda.
They do. Yep, they have a fishing hunting combo. Those are like the top of the top hunting experience that you can get in the state of Texas.
Experience is unreal. The only and the deal for me, essentially, that kind of gives me a little bit of turn off, is unlike these, where your points you can only apply for one. You can only get that point once.
Yep.
On those, you can apply as much as your wallet allows you to.
Yeah.
So
it's different. But
it's a little different.
Yeah. So the primary categories that we're going to talk about.
But if you draw it, they're amazing.
Yeah. If you draw it, it's amazing. And I mean, come on, it's $10 for each one. You're already applying. It's not that bad. You might as well at least put in once. But the 2 categories we're really going to be talking about today are the just regular drawn hunts, so those special permit hunts, and then the National Wildlife Refuge.
Correct.
Those are the 2 big categories we're going to go into. And then as Taylor started talking about, those are broken into even more categories.
Yeah, even more.
Yeah, so generally...
Yeah, we haven't even got to how your point occurs yet.
Oh, nope, we're getting there. We're almost there.
Yeah.
So they have... Those general categories are broken down into your higher level method. So you've got 4 other categories. So general, which is your rifle, your firearm, and then you have your archery seasons. You've got private land, as Taylor was talking about. Those are generally gun seasons. And then you have youth only. We're not really going to talk about youth on this episode. Neither of us are at that stage. We haven't really done the research yet, so sorry. But in general...
And your guided packages.
Oh, yes. We do have the guided
There are a
packages
few
as well.
small ones. The odds aren't great, but...
Yeah. The guided packages are a regular application. You can do that, like the Bighorn guided package that I definitely applied for. And I know you did the Gemsbach
and the Oryx.
And the Oryx. So those are your 3 guided package options. Those are fully guided, and I think they're outfitted technically.
Yes,
you get lodging and everything included.
Yep. And I want to say they're just like the upper echelon ones. They're only like if you do draw it, they're like $9 to apply, only $130 if you get it.
Yeah.
Or no, hold on. Give me 1 second. Actually, they might not. So they're $10 to apply, and cost is 0. So
you just pay for the application.
Win a bighorn sheep hunt
for $10.
For $10.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do that to the
Yeah, no kidding. Right?
Yeah, I mean.
So now, if we go back to the 2 areas we're mainly focusing on, so those special permits and the National Wildlife Refuge, there are technically 5 subcategories beyond that. So you have your general, you have archery, private land, youth only, the guided for the special permits, and then the National Wildlife Refuge actually has a muzzleloader standalone category.
Correct.
Most of these are species specific. So if you're looking at the link I provided in the show notes and you're looking at the general, I pull it up right now. You have alligator management, exotic, feral hog, javelina, mule deer, pronghorn, spring turkey. They all kind of generally go that way until you get to the deer categories, like the whitetails. Because then you've got at least 3 categories for the most part. So you've got your gun deer antlerless spike, gun deer either sex, gun deer management, which management is just not a true trophy type whitetail.
But some of those are still up to 9 points, which I'm killing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Not gonna push that down. On the private land side, there are 2 deer categories. So you've got your antlerless spike and your either sex. And then if you go down to the National Wildlife Refuge hunts, you basically have deer, another antlerless spike one, and that's under the general. When you look at archery and muzzleloader, it's just deer. So the categories do change depending on what you're looking to apply for, what type of hunt you're planning on doing, the weapon you plan on choosing. And this is where it gets somewhat frustrating compared to other states, because each of these categories, so if I apply for special permit, gun deer, either sex, I get my point. That point is only for units, hunts within the gun deer, either sex category. If I want to apply for gun deer management or gun deer antlerless spike, I have to also apply for those categories. Otherwise, my points don't count. So if I have 10 points in gun deer either sex, does me no good on a management hunt.
Correct.
Yeah, so each time you apply every category, those points are specific to that category. It's not specific to a unit, but it is specific to a category. So exotics is one category. If you're applying for the special permits under exotics, those all qualify.
Right.
But you have to apply every year to get those points, and they are only good for that category that you are applying for. So that is the one thing that's kind of a gripe that I have with the Texas system, because other states, a deer point's a deer point.
Right.
A pronghorn point's a pronghorn point. I don't need to apply for pronghorn private land. I don't need to apply for private or pronghorn in general, and those are separate point systems. But the benefit of that, and it comes to bite you in the butt with other states, is if I want to hold out for a certain type of either sex tag, I can. I could be very selective. Then I could just kind of spray and pray for the gun deer management if I wanted to. Yeah. So you can use it to your advantage. You're not burning your points on any hunt that you accidentally draw unless you apply for a unit that you didn't really want.
Right.
But in general, that is the broad sense of categories and options that are available to you in Texas. There are a lot of them. When I'm looking at this page, I mean, just under special permits alone, just in the categories underneath that, I'm looking at least 24 options that you can apply for, and that's not for the specific units, because each one you apply for a unit. So underneath gun deer either sex, you can apply for several different unit options that you are interested in hunting.
Yeah, general specific permit hunts has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different species, but deer have 3 different, alligator has 2 different. So just under general gun hunts, there are that many options. Yep. And then of course, obviously inside of those options, we have multiple different places, and the beauty of it is when you go ahead and put in. So like if we dive into, let's say, general mule deer, and you have a general mule deer point, well, you can go apply to all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places, and that point's going to count each time, which is cool, right? Which is really, really cool, because, well, there's that many different opportunities to go kill mule deer. Now, again, we've said this a couple times, and we'll get into it once we get to that point, but obviously if I had quite a few points, well then now I'm going to jump into mule deer general and go, okay, me personally, if it's me, I'm going to look at 2 different things. What is the experience like, and what do the numbers tell me about it?
Yep.
And so that's where, for anybody listening, that's where I hope to start just personally trying to help people. Again, never knew about this until literally just a few months ago, but it has absolutely intrigued me as someone who met you, wanted to go out Western hunting, just don't have that. That's just not an option for me right now. Yep. But the lure of it and how it works is amazing. And so I was like, man, this fulfills this for me. I can do this easily. You know, sent you the videos today of the camping trailer I want to put together. Yeah. And so I do. This is something I probably want to dive into, making kind of my hobby. Yeah, I get it. The odds aren't great. But again, I will tell you,
that's what makes it fun, though.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah, the challenge of figuring it out. Yeah. And the thing is, the benefit that I have that you don't have at this point is I've been applying in these different states for 4 years, 5 years. And I have the benefit of being able to play the long game, knowing like, yeah, I'm probably not going to draw Texas in a while, but I don't care, because I've gone out west every single year at least once since you've known me. And I will go out west every single year as long as I'm able to. This is... If you want a unique hunting experience, this is what you have available to you. And that is the privilege that I have, is being able to, like, yeah, I got points in a few different states, and I know that I can draw something in basically any Western state if I want to.
Right. And I have 0 Western points.
We're going to get you there.
That's the plan.
We're going to get you there. All right. So now we're going to go into the most fun portion, I think, is talking about the research. But actually, before we do that, we never talked about the cost. Yeah. All of these hunts.
That's the most impressive thing, the whole deal.
Minus the private land hunts and the guided hunts, it's $3 for each.
$3 to apply.
$3 to apply. The actual cost of the hunt is either $80 or $130. I don't remember why the difference is.
I have literally looked through all of this stuff. Could not tell you.
Yeah,
I could not tell you. If somebody out there knows it, let us know. Like I said, compiling stuff, but I will tell you, like, you glance over the master list, and just inside, let's say, just inside all dads, right? So all dads, general, exotic. If we're going after all dads, there's literally 3 hunts that are 130 and 2 hunts that are 80, and all of them but one, actually all of them are all on public land. So I could not tell you, and it doesn't even, because even inside that category, there are 2 different state parks, and one is 130 and one is 80. Officially have no idea how they decide. Welcome to the state of Texas. Welcome, as much as I do like Texas parks and wildlife and what they do. Let's get real. If something's still a government entity,
it's gonna have issues.
It's gonna
it's gonna have issues. And Texas did not make this, as we're about to get into, Texas did not make it easy for you to know about these hunts. The information they provide, extremely valuable, but you have to put in the work to figure it out. They're not handing it to you on a silver platter. Keep in mind, if you use Go Hunt, if you're a Western hunter, or if you use Hunt and Fool or one of those other services out there, that's not here. No, you're doing all the work. If you use Go Hunt, you will have a newfound appreciation for what they do when you start looking at the statistics.
Oh,
really
that's the big deal. And I'll just plug this now and just kind of got it started. You saw it the other day. I think, now I don't even remember what I called it.
I'll find it.
Quick. I want to say it's like Quick Draw something. I got a page there on Instagram. Go ahead, if you are curious, go ahead and like that page and then shoot me a message. And I have no problem sending you where the spreadsheet's at. I will tell you, I plan on expanding this spreadsheet to and I already have started expanding it to other hunts that are not necessarily in our goal range. And you're more than welcome to pull that. I'm doing 2 major things with that spreadsheet, and we'll get into that in a minute. But essentially, I can give you obviously there's no way to give you draw odds.
Yeah.
Because there is no way to know how many points were in the queue, and that because again, it's not your point is not necessarily increasing your percentage or your status.
Yeah,
it's just simply increasing your number of entries into the pool.
And what Taylor's getting at here is. There's no data on how many point holders there are in the draw each year or how many point holders there are in general. But real quick, the Instagram page, I'm going to add this to the show notes and we'll bring it up again at the end of the podcast too before we close out. It's quickdrawhunting_TX. That's the page on Instagram that he opened up. Again, that'll be in the show notes. I'll make sure to link it up. Please give him a follow. And it's all about the Texas hunting system. This is something that Taylor's, as he's mentioned a couple times now, super passionate about right now. And he's going to be working on that, expanding that, and trying to add value to people who are trying to learn more about this system. Yeah.
And so essentially what I'm focused on is we're going to give you a kind of a percentage of applicants who actually draw. They do tell us how many applicants apply every year. Mm-hmm. And then they do give us the actual number of available hunts. So I can at least give you, hey, what are my, how many, what is the percentage of people actually getting to get into these hunts? And again, a lot of these are low. These are really super low numbers, but some of them are better, and we'll talk about that. And that's where the research helps you. And then the big thing for me is, and I've been expanding this a lot in the last couple weeks, is I've been sorting through. So Texas Parks and Wildlife. Remember, most of these hunts, and we didn't hit on this, and I would like to real quick, is the goal actually of these hunts outside of us as hunters is actually wildlife management and control.
Oh, it is.
In multiple different facets. So just to hit this back up, and obviously we'll dive more into when we get into the stats based off of what we care about. But guys, most of these hunts, again, are on state parks or state national areas or wildlife management areas.
Yep.
And so there is actual real this is biological work. This really is us helping with that. And some of that is actually, especially in our case, is actually eradicating some of these exotics. And we'll dive into that when we get to the National Wildlife Reserves. One of the hunts that we're really now game about, that they will tell you that their goal by doing these hunts is to eradicate that species from the land.
Yep.
And so because of that, I guess, sorry, I got a little long-winded there, but because of that, they actually keep really, really detailed notes over the success of these hunts. Now, let me back up. So I say that, detailed notes, but that's a caveat. Let me back up. They are trying to take detailed notes. If you go as deep into the data as I do, you're gonna find there are some missing pieces. There are some things that are open to a little bit of interpretation. Yep. But my point is, again, hundreds of something different hunts. They are actually trying to keep records, and they then take those records and are giving you have availability to them. And as of right now, on that website, because I did want to do this. So if you go to the main draw hunt page, you scroll all the way down to the bottom. On the right hand side in the middle, it's going to say your previous statistics. And right now they're going back all the way to the 2012-2013 hunting season. I'm going to be honest, I did not go back that far, but I have gone back the last 3 years and actually looked at what is the success rate, which I feel like, in my experience, my little experience so far with you, that is actually one of the things you and I look at Go Hunt. Yep. You've been teaching me how to look at the opportunities out there on Go Hunt for Western hunting, and that is a big one, right? Because it's like, hey, it might be a 80% draw odd, but that's some rough terrain country, and they've killed one animal in the last 3 years, and it's
it's 90% private land.
Right. So why am I blowing my money on that unit? Right.
Yep, exactly.
And again, I know this isn't super expensive like Western hunting is, but again, if we're gonna put any effort into it, I'm one of those big believers. If your good can be better, then your better can be best, and so let's be as smart about this as possible. And so that's my goal with the spreadsheet, is to try to help people who are interested in these Texas draw hunts to maybe make a little more educated guess after what they're doing. So like I said, if somebody would like that, message me, and we'll give it.
So we've got that page. I'm going to link that in the show notes. Before we dive into the spreadsheet, let's talk about all of the options that people that listening to this podcast will have if they want to research the Texas drawn hunts. So one of the great resources you talked about, and I'm going to share the link for that, is the historical data. I don't know why it's not included on there, but you have to search for it. If it's not with the regular drawn hunts, essentially your starting point needs to be Texas Parks and Wildlife Department's website. You've got to take a look at the drawn hunts. There's a whole page for public land drawn hunts. Again, all of this is going to be in the show notes, but when you go on that page and you look at the catalog, you can start digging into the different options that you've got, and you'll see everything that we've been talking about: special permits, e-postcards, U.S. Forest Service, National Wildlife Refuge. Again, you won't see the big time hunts because that's on another page, but the 4 other categories you will see here. And then I'm looking at it right now. You've got all of your options on there. So let's just say you're looking at a gun deer general either sex tag. You click on that and you will see what looks to me at first glance like 28, 30 different hunt unit options, and you can start diving into all of those data. Now, if you want to see, when you're scrolling through this page and you're looking at any particular unit, so I'm going to pick, let's just say, Chaparral, WMA.
There you go.
That's a very popular hunt.
For whitetail.
It's one for whitetails because the area is known for great whitetails. So you're looking at this, you see it's $3 application fee like we've been talking about. Right underneath the name, you will see the hunt brochure, and the hunt brochure gives you even more useful information about the unit itself. So you'll see where it's located, boundaries, overview, and they'll give you some more detailed information if there's anything specific that you need to do. In this case, there is a check station. There is headquarters you have to go into, and they explain a lot of different things that you need to know to be prepared going into the hunt. So as you're looking at different units, you're considering your options. First thing you're going to look at, if you want to look at specific units, is to dive into the names of those units. Now, if I go back really quick to the other category, the other page, the main page for the catalog, you can do by category or by area.
Yes.
So you can actually, if you know there's a specific area you want to hunt or you only want to go so far, you can go and look, and I see there's one right on top of San Antonio. It's Palmetto State Park. If I click that, I'm looking at the area. I can see every hunt option that they have. They only have one. It's an e-postcard youth deer antlerless spike. But if you know the specific place you want to hunt, and this is another thing to keep in mind, if you have a unit that you want to draw and it's going to take a while, there might be options for you to draw like a feral hog tag, a javelina tag, or something else so you can get experience, boots on the ground for that unit. So you can be creative and figure out how you want to leverage the tools that they're giving you, but you can break it down by category or by area.
Correct. And one of the ways that that's actually super beneficial is, so one of the main differences between our national wildlife and all of our our regular Texas hunts is the wildlife is going to give you 1 day for scouting. The rest of these do not.
Yeah.
They don't give you a scouting option. And some of these hunts are like, yes, it's great, they're compartment, and that's cool, especially if that's what you're after, but they're like a 2-day hunt.
Yep.
So you get 2 days, no scouting capabilities, and so if you've been saving up all these tags to go mule deer hunting, yeah, you might want to find a way to get in there free to give you a chance to, like you said, get boots on the ground.
Yeah. And if we go back to the Chaparral either sex hunt, I'll click that, and we're back on and this is just as an example of a specific one, things you can look for. So when you're on that page, you'll see the brochure, you'll see the cost. There will be a basic description on there. You'll see bag limits, so you'll know exactly what you're looking for. So for Chaparral, you got 2 white-tailed deer, buck only, and it breaks down the antler restrictions. This is where you can start seeing for some hunts what your options might be. So you can also do unlimited feral hogs, unlimited coyotes, but don't take this as the only way you can figure out what your hunt options are there. If you go through the historical data, you might see that there are other things that you can take on these units. Then the next thing you really do need to pay attention to, honestly, is your means and your method, because they vary from unit to unit. So for example, Chaparral, you have to use a centerfire rifle with mounted scopes, and it is compartment. There are some permanent blinds, and they basically give you some recommendations. So you could see various methods for the hunt. If you know that you're looking for a specific hunting experience or style, that is something that you should consider. Unfortunately, you can't filter this page. It'd be amazing if Texas Parks and Wildlife added a filter. If I only wanted to look for compartment hunts, that'd be freaking great. Yeah.
Spreadsheet's going to give you that ability.
Spreadsheet gives you options for that, but again, you're doing the work. It'd be nice if it was on the website.
Yeah.
So then the next thing you're going to see is the number of permits, and you'll see last year's data, but it's only the highlighted data. If you really want to get the juicy details, you need to look at the spreadsheet.
And let me even give you a little bit past that. So you and I have talked about this a little bit, and you kind of asked me why, and I will tell you that I've kind of, again, this is not put out by Texas Parks and Wildlife, so I don't know if this is the official answer from them, but I think I've got it about figured out. So what you'll actually find in a lot of this stuff is when you're on, so if you're on the website, right, and we're just gun deer, trying to think of one that I could easily go find, but essentially you click it, and it tells you, hey, this many applicants, and here was the percentage last year.
Yep.
Well, then, if you go look in the spreadsheet, you're going to be like, wait, that percentage isn't the same.
Oh, the success rate.
Okay, so I figured out this too. When they put the percentage on the website, that is an accumulation of those hunts across all categories for that type of hunt. So let's say it is Cap, Rock, all that. Mm-hmm. Guess what? They do a hunt for youth too.
Yeah, and it includes both.
They're doing both. On the deer stuff, a couple different places are going to have multiple different, similar deer hunting opportunities for that location, given the same time frame. Again, they combined them. So I did kind of figure out that, and that's where going back into the data will actually give you a little better idea.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong, it's great what Texas Parks and Wildlife has on here on the website at face value, but that's like your level 1 research. If you really want to take the most out of your application experience, you really do need to go to these the historical data and download the spreadsheets. So again, I will provide the link for that in the show notes so that you can just go straight to it, because it's not on the main page. But that is where you can really get into the useful nitty-gritty data. And I'm going to let you take it away, because you've really done a lot of great work with the spreadsheet that you've put together, compiling some data. So what can people expect to find? How can they leverage it? What have you done to start?
Correct. And I will add 2 more things before we jump into it. 2 more places I'm going to give for research. Now, granted, these are kind of after, again, if you've had your goal, you look at the data then helps you narrow the field down, and now you have this very finite field and you're trying to decide. I'm also going to throw in YouTube's actually been great. I've enjoyed YouTube a lot. I think I have blown our text message feed between the two of us up with YouTube videos. And actually, YouTube videos introduced me to some of these hunts that I didn't know that I needed to look at. And then the other cool way, old school forums. There are a couple old school forums. One of them is like texashunting.com kind of deals. And man, there's actually some good information on there that will help you with that as well. So let's jump into the spreadsheet. Now, I don't want to bore everybody all day. I want this to be cool. I want y'all to be interested. So we're not going to necessarily go through step for step, but what I want to do is start with saying, okay, what was our goal? So our goal was we were focused on kind of that exotic hunt. We wanted to look at that. What was that availability? So to give you guys an idea, so all dad, me and Andrew both said all dads are number one. So all dad, if we are looking at for face value. So face value says we're going to go to the special draws, we're going to go to general, we're going to go click exotics. That opens up, that shows us whether exotics are in there, and one of those species is Aldad. That is going to give you 5 different opportunities. So there are 5 total opportunities, and man, if you have no points and we are just trying to gain points, now again, you're not going to get 5 points off of that. You're just going to get 1 point for Aldad general there. But if you don't have any points, why not? Any opportunity. Well, let's say somebody actually has a couple points, and then how would we want to look at that? Well, again, my spreadsheet starts helping you break things down off of 2 spectrums. What is, based off of the number of applicants from last year, how many people said, hey, throw my name in the hat. Now again, we have no idea how many points some of those different people had, but just how many people said, I want a shot, versus what was the state of Texas going to give. Again, that's going to be a very small percentage, but if you're curious, what place gave us that best percentage, right? Mm-hmm. That was actually going to be Paladero Canyon State Park. There were 4,000 applicants last year, but there were 24 spots. For people who never looked at this, that's actually pretty decent. I'm going to give you some that are going to shock you. So for example, let me go ahead and do that. What is some of the worst? Caprock Canyon State Park had, let me take it back. Devil's Sinkhole State National Area was one of the worst. 4,900 applicants.
For 5
there were
permits.
5 permits. Now, from there, though, you go, okay, so then if we're going to start throwing our name in a hat, what gives us some of the best ability for a chance? Well, let me tell you why there were so many applicants. So, Devil's River is state national area, Devil's River, and this year there's Devil's Sinkhole. One of the things you are going to find, real quick, as you go through data, they do change things up. They are adding, they're removing hunts, and they're circulating hunts within the different categories. So Devil's Sinkhole actually does not have any old data on it, but it is not touching Devil's River, but it is very close to proximity. So that's interesting. But Devil's River, here is why it's still worth throwing in the hat. Devil's River, over the last 3 years, has posted a 83, 88, and 73% kill rate. So that means the hunters that showed up, 83, so last year there were 24 hunters that officially did that hunt, 83% of them all killed. And here's one of the other interesting things that I want you to know about this place. It isn't that, hey, we just kill a lot of Aldads. We also are killing a large amount of male rams, and over the 3-year span, every single year, that hunt has produced another tag. What do we mean by that? Because we kind of danced around this, but we didn't go ahead and put it all the way in. A lot of the hunts, and this goes back to the website. So when we're looking through the website and we're looking at that and we're opening up maybe, their brochure, we're looking in that information. One of the things I want you to look at, what are the other tags that it also gives us? Not all of these hunts are not just, hey, you're going to go kill a white-tailed deer.
Yep.
Now, let me give a caveat real quick. I would say somewhere in the ballpark of 70% of the hunts are the add-on thing is going to be like a hog.
Yep.
Most all of them are unlimited hog, but there are tons of hunts that throw way other stuff in there.
Yes.
So that's the cool thing. To give you an example, so the Devil's River State Park, all dad exotic general hunt, because again, that's the lineage and that's where the point comes from. That thing produced 14 male rams, 34 females, and 1 axis buck. So that's pretty cool. The year
now,
before,
how did you find that data?
So
because that's not on the main page. You got to go into the
that's
spreadsheet.
Not.
For
so
that.
That's where you got to go into the spreadsheet. You got to start dialing it through. You're gonna have, and that's where you're gonna have to go all the way on the right hand side of the data and go see, hey, what was some of the other stuff? Again, I go back to there is a biologist setting here. They are taking a lot of data, and you can go see what the biologists have put in there. The year before, they pulled 10 goats. The year before that, they pulled axis and goats and some sheep. So again, if you had a lot of points and you could get yourself cubed quite a bit, yeah. So yes, Devil's River had 6,500 applicants last year for 28 spots. But if you can get it cubed, man, what a haul that would be.
Oh yeah, I mean that one I think for both of us is like our number one.
Right, because then for me personally, again, I said the Cap Rock. Like for me personally, Cap Rock, again, awful draw odds, 4,300 applicants for only 5 spots. Yeah, it is kind of cool. You're getting up in the Cap Rock Canyon. You're getting just southeast of Amarillo. That's your whole Paladero Canyon State Park is really close to that. I mean, you're getting up in a really cool environment, I guess. But honestly, I don't know if I'll ever put in that thing again, and here's why. So last year they had 8 hunters showed up. They didn't kill a dang thing. The year before they had 13 hunters, and they literally only killed 7 total all dead. And then the year before that, they had 8 hunters and only killed 9. So it's like, 3-year average for, Cap Rock Canyon State Park, when it comes to that all dad hunt, over 3 years, they only averaged 5 dead animals a year for 27% success rate.
Yeah.
That's just, so at that
really
point,
low.
why am I playing with it? So that kind of gave you the high and the low on the all dad. That's kind of what we started looking at. Another thing, obviously I was interested in was axis. Now, that's actually kind of what helped me lead to one of the cool deals. So we talked a lot, and so I'm going to tease it real quick. We'll dive into it here in a second. But again, other hunts offer different tags.
Yep.
And given the area they're in, that could still be a heavily prone area to the species you're actually after. So, axis is perfect. Now, for the record, when I first started building this, and I haven't got to adjust it yet, I have never hunted archery. That's going to change this year. I've already told that to Andrew. We're already looking and working. If I had time today, I drove by a bow shop in Georgetown. I wanted to stop. I just didn't have the time.
That shop is good. I've been there.
Okay, you're right. That one right there off the toll road.
Yep, Double G Archery. It's a good shop.
Okay, yep.
There's no way you're listening, but hey, if you are, shout out.
I want to go by there, and one of the things that got me there is that opens up a lot more hunts inside this system. But if you have a rifle and you're wanting to access rifle hunt, there's only two. So if you're a big rifle hunter and you want to kill an axis and you're wanting to draw it, not go pay for it, they only give you 2 options. And here's the bad news.
So you think.
So you think. And here's the bad news bears about those 2 options. Geographically, they're cool. Garter State Park and South Llano River. And South Llano is, man, you start looking at
if you look at the page, South Llano seems like it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread.
Oh, since sliced bread. Because they give you the ability for black buck, fallow, Sika deer.
Aoudad,
everything. Oh, man, everything.
12,000 applicants for 20 permits.
And Andrew
then you dive into the numbers.
12,000 applicants last year for 20 hunt spots, and Garner Rifle had 8,000 applicants for 20 hunt spots, and you go,
never going to happen.
That ain't happening, bro.
Well, then you dive into the statistics, and the success rate's really not that good.
So then let's talk about
that.
They've
never killed a black buck in that unit, as far as I can tell.
That's the thing. So then you even go, okay, well, let me dive into this. And granted, again, here are some of the notes that the biologist notes will give you. Both those two hunts, which keep in mind, those hunts time-wise, which I can tell you that, those hunts are January 9th through the 11th for Garner, and then January 9th through the 12th, or 23rd through the 26th for South Llano. Well, does everybody remember kind of what happened around that time last year?
2 years ago?
Yeah, yep. So, there is a note. They say, keep in mind, cold front for Garner, and literally South Llano's hunt last year was in the middle of the ice storm, which, if anyone's curious, my day job as an insurance agent, that was literally one of the worst insurance experiences ever. That was one of the few, so the ice storm was one of the few storms that has ever actually hit all 254 counties in the state of Texas under one occurrence.
Yep,
correct.
Once.
Yeah, so you can imagine what my job was like as an insurance agent. But that's cool. That's cool. Fine. So y'all are going to claim that ruined the data. But again, when you're Taylor and you start building spreadsheets, would you like to know what how that affects the 3-year data?
Yeah, let's see it.
Yeah. So Garner is still only sitting at 62%, which isn't awful.
No, it's pretty good compared to like Western
comparatively
states.
To Western states. But if I'm going to throw my name in there with like 8,000 other people, and then Llano was a little better at 74, but Garner is never, on South Llano. In regards to the fallow and the Sika and the black buck in the last 3 years.
Yep.
Now, they have taken Axis, but let me give you this Axis stat. Okay? So, Axis the last 3 years, they have killed 9 of them. Of the 9, 3 have been bucks.
Yeah.
So, gives you kind of,
again, focus on your goals and dig into the data so you know what you're applying for is what you actually want. And I won't lie, I applied for South Llano. I did. But hey, it is what it is.
Right. It is what it is. But that's what led me to say, hey, what other things can I do? Now, before I jump down that road, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up one of the hunts. Oh, and sorry, actually, I lied to you, Andrew. Garner over 3 years is a 25% success rate. Yeah, so go ahead and just throw that out the window.
I ain't going to throw it out the window.
Sorry. I did have this wrong. Sorry. Garner was 25%, has never killed another deal. South Llano was 62%, and no, they have not killed anything else.
Yeah, it's just Axis.
Yeah, it's just the Axis. Sorry. The hunt underneath, though, was one of the coolest things me and Andrew have now found that we never knew we needed in our life. And it is Powderhorn Wildlife Management Area.
I know. This is, for those listening, this is Taylor's obsession. This is his actual obsession right now.
It is.
Until he gets one of the deer that he's about to talk about.
Yeah, poor Andrew. Too many videos. I'm sorry, Andrew.
No, it's fine. They're cool. They're really cool looking.
Deer. And I told Andrew when I was trying to explain it to him, and then he goes, oh, I agree. They are a cross between, a Nilgai antelope and an Axis deer. Mm-hmm. These things, there is a video on YouTube, go look it up, of this father, and he takes his 2 kids, and both kids kill one, and one of them is over 400 pounds.
Yeah, they get big.
Big.
For deer.
Big-bodied animal with horns that look a lot like an Axis.
And the body, if you didn't see antlers and you were coming up behind it, you would think it's a Nilgai.
That's a Nilgai antelope. Yeah. If I have this correct, and somebody can correct me, I think they're like Indian origin or something like that, or Asian origin or something like that. But Powderhorn does offer a hunt for that for our sandbar deer. Here's the loveliness about it. So Powderhorn Wildlife Management. Yes, there are 10,000 applicants, but here's the deal. This is the place where they literally have come out. So to give, and I'm probably going too long, but I do want to give a little bit of background. So Powderhorn is actually down the coast, so it's actually right outside of Port O'Connor. The Powderhorn was one of the largest ranches. It's actually one of the newest acquisitions from the state of Texas. They actually made the purchase in 2014, Texas Parks and Wildlife did not. They did not actually get the state. It's one of the newest state parks. It's actually not open to the public because they're not done getting it ready.
Didn't know that.
They did not get a hold of it till really 21. The wildlife area, they've had a couple more years, but it is very fresh. None of it is open to the public, which is awesome. And they literally are doing these hunts to eradicate the sandbar. They're giving 30. So this year they're giving 32 spots on the wildlife management, and now they've opened 4 spots on the part of the state park that they've gotten done so far. And to give you an idea, hey, is that one worth throwing in the hat? 3-year average, they are at 74%. They have killed a total of 37 sandbar deer with, if you're curious about this, the ratio split male to female is like 73% male to only like 27% female, and that hunt is what's produced all the axis deer. Now, like I said, only 3 of them have been males, but
Yeah.
So
It's a good hunt to be putting in
That's
for,
a
especially
good
if you want a
hunt
sandbar deer.
to go put into. You will see, like I said, the state park did not exist in any of the older data. That's because it's new. But that was cool. Now, again, backing up to my goal. My goal, I said, was axis and all that. All that, I didn't have a whole lot of, you get a couple options, but there's 5. Axis only had 2. If anyone else is curious while we're here, there are 4 pronghorn hunts. There is only 1 in general. Go look under private. There are 3 other pronghorn private hunts.
You're gonna
draw
pay
odds
more.
are awful.
Yeah, draw odds are awful. You're going to pay more, but I'll be honest, I love pronghorn.
Yep.
And I would love to get that
So
hunt.
why not draw in? I would be remiss before we jump in. I do want to hit your mule deer real quick. Because I do have some cool stuff to throw out there. There's some really cool hunts I'd like to bring to some people's attentions. All right, so mule deer. Inside of mule deer, again, if we're going after it, and again, I do not yet have, I do believe there is an archery section.
There is, yep.
I do not have
actually, no, I think it's just archery deer. I don't.
Is there
I'm going to put my foot in my mouth. No, there is. I
think there is an archery mule deer. For the record, I do not have that in the spreadsheet yet. That is one of the places that I am going to start adding in. That is, like I said, I am trying to expand it. But initially, when we started off, I'm a rifle guy only at the time, so I did that. So in regards to that, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mule deer gun hunts that are mule deer specific, and inside of those. There are some interesting ones. Some of your better chances to actually get into that deal are going to be Big Ben. Big Ben's got 7,300 applicants with 12 spots. Again, I'm not saying it's great, but that's a little bit better
I want that
because, unfortunately, to give you some reference here, the Gene Howe, which is up in Canadian, not a country. There's a Canadian Texas up there. That's literally 1 spot and 2,200 people put in. So we're 0.05% of the hunters actually get to draw that. And so like I said, so the odds aren't great. But I found there is a hunt in here that is just super intriguing to me.
Is it Elephant Mountain?
No, for me it's Cerro Diablo.
Okay, interesting.
So
why?
Yeah, so you are far west. You are 22 miles from the Mexico border.
I know why. I'm looking at it. I know exactly why.
And one of the coolest add-ons I've ever seen is elk either sex. It is a compartment hunt. So you have the ability to kill a mule deer buck. There is no stipulations on the size of the buck. And then unlimited, or not unlimited, I forget what it is, but there is elk either sex
it's
on there.
One elk either sex.
Okay, there you go. And just location. Because when I think mule deer, I either want to be super rocky out west, or I think of Mexico mule deer.
Yep.
You are 22 miles from the Mexico border in far west Texas. I think aesthetically that thing sounds really cool to me. Percent odd to draw. Best one in the category is actually Matador.
Yeah.
There are 61 people who apply, but there are 10 spots. So, and then the craziest one that I've yet to see, period, is in this category, and that is your Pecos mule deer. So please keep in reference if you are looking. This is a guided hunt, but it does require 2 people to apply, and it gives you an elk option. So you do have to have 2 people to apply to that one. Keep that one in mind. Does also give you an elk option, and there's only 711 applicants for 2 spots, but you do have to have 2 people. So I thought that one was kind of interesting how they did that. Like we said, we did kind of hit that there were bighorn Gemsbok. Again, only like 1 or 2 spots. A whole bunch of people apply, but hey, if you get it, it is fully guided and meals included, so that's always really cool. So in the pursuit of saying, hey, we only had a handful of mule deer there. We had only, let's say, 5 Aldad and 2 axes. Then we get 2 sandbar that are cool, but okay, that wasn't our goal leading into it. You go, dang. Draw odds suck on those, or not draw odd, but percentage of applicants getting to hunt sucks. Dang. What else can I do? Well, you start searching and you get really interested in what are these other tags, and then you start realizing something. A lot of these really cool places from the exotic hunts are not just offering exotic hunts. And that is where I feel like I can be the most help to you guys. So, now this world is not just rifle. I've included a bunch here.
Okay.
But in total, I have found 16 whitetail-based hunts. Now, if you'll go back and remember, we told you guys, whitetail hunts have a whole lot more legs to them.
Yep.
So to give you, remember, there are, within the ones that show up here, we have private land either sex, we have archery either sex, gun management, gun either sex. Yeah, so you have all those different categories. And I have dubbed this, so if you do ask for my spreadsheet, this is what I've called Whitetails Plus. And all of these hunts are going to give you the ability to go after something else. That includes Aldads, exotics, there's a mule deer, sandbars even in there. So they're giving you all this. So,
and that's just in the special permit hunts. Because then when we go at the National Wildlife Refuge hunts.
Yeah, right. This is just in the special permits. So 16 other hunts that give you some shot. And actually, some of these hunts give you, and this is where it's nice, because we have a whole slew of people when it comes to white-tailed deer that are after white-tailed deer.
Yep.
And if you're after white-tailed deer, you're probably actually after them in the areas that are really good for white-tailed deer. And a lot of those areas are not going to be the same ones great for all that. Again, I come from South Texas. We're not hunting. I mean, there's probably... Again, in the world of private hunting and high fences, you can kill any animal anywhere in South Texas.
Or pretty much most of Texas.
I mean, if you want to go kill a zebra, they got zebras, Gemsbok, they got everything you want to kill. But again, I'm not after the ear tag hunting. Sorry if you get offended by that, but I don't know. I'm big about that. I ain't killing anything on the ear tag. So think about that. So then we start looking. Now, so because of that, because a lot of these are whitetail first, I'm looking through here. And again, Andrew, what was one of the biggest number of applicants we looked at? Probably South Llano at 12.
Yeah, I think 12,000 is the highest.
Okay, 12,000. And the Whitetails Plus, the largest applicant count, 5,700.
Yep.
With an average of 2,300 applicants.
Yeah. And
So
the
of these
tag
60
numbers are higher too. The permit numbers are much better.
Correct. With an average tag number of like 9.8. Yeah. With some of them being as good as like 1,900 applicants for 24 spots. That's actually breaking the point percentage percentile.
You can get to a real percentage.
Yeah, which gets to a real percent, which again, I still get is super low, but when you're looking through data and you're looking at 0.0 percentages, it's like
all of them basically are 0.0 percentages.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really cool and intriguing. Now, from there, you go, okay, Taylor, that sounds really great. But what, is that, okay. So that's where I started diving into. So, in that section, there are some gold mine hunts that I would like to share with you. So, again, we're not going to go through all of them. I just want to share some gold mines, what is actually worth your time. In the gun either sex deer category, there is a hunt at Enchanted Rock State National Area. And that hunt, the last 3 years, is great for whitetail deer to start with, by the way. They've been 79%, 100%, and then 3 years ago they were 53%. But here's the cool thing. They've taken an Aldad every single year for the last 3 years off of that location. So that's actually a real shot at an Aldad. And again, that's a gun either sex, which means I can actually still take a little buck, which I think they have an antler restriction on that hunt.
They do. Yeah, so I'm looking at it right now. You can take up to 5 white-tailed deer, either sex, limit 1 fork antlered buck, and 1 with at least 1 unbranched antler. So essentially, you've got to take 2 duds, essentially.
Yeah, 2 duds, which is fine, but that fills a freezer.
Absolutely.
And gives you an actual real shot.
Yeah, and the thing is, again, you have to look at the spreadsheet to see that, because when you're looking, all it says is the white-tailed deer, feral hogs, exotics. It doesn't tell you what. So unless you look at the spreadsheet and dive in, you're not going to see that.
Yep. Then another cool one. Again, we just got done talking about how cool powderhorn is. And so you go, dang, they are covered up with sandbar and they want them gone. Man. Well, guess what? Texas is going to give you another shot at them. So in gun either sex as well, there's Powderhorn Wildlife Management Area. That thing has had, again, a 72, 84, and 81% take rate on deer. They are heavy buck, but that ain't even the coolest part. That hunt last year, so there were, I think there were 18 hunters. So last year, 18 hunters were there. They took 10 sandbar deer.
Yep.
That's almost 1 per hunter.
Yep.
The year before, they did 55 hunters. Talk about wanting to get stuff gone. Took 38 sandbar and 5 axis. The year before that, they let 52 hunters in there, killed 7 sandbar and 1 axis.
So they're killing sandbar each year, and the
killing
numbers
sandbar and axis each year that they're there with it going up. So if your goal is exotics and to kill something else, Enchanted Rock and Powderhorn give you a really cool shot. Now, another one that's big. This hunt did not exist last year within deer. Remember, I told you they like to rotate and look through stuff, so you've got to be really smart with what you're looking at. Well, what is our number 1 place that we would like to go hunt Aldad, sir?
Aldad? For me, and I don't remember if yours is the same.
Okay, it might differ. No, I think it was the same.
For me, it was Devil's River.
Yeah. Well, what if I told you that under gun deer management, Devil's River offers a hunt now?
That sounds pretty nice
and
to me.
guess what they allow you to hunt on top of that?
Aldad?
And if you'd like to just have a nice little refresher, last year they killed 27 rams and 57 ewes total off of the Devil's River State National Area. Produced 27 rams, 57 ewes, and 2 axis. The year before that, it produced 71 total Aldad and 10 Catalina sheep.
And that's under the gun deer management category.
Gun deer management.
Not either sex.
So you'd actually get to hunt you a nice little gun deer, 1 buck, because it's just 1 buck.
It is 1 buck, yep.
And then, you knock that out, and then guess what else? Which again,
or you just
also
go
compartment
for
hunting,
or whatever else.
Or whatever you want, but correct. So keep that one in your nice little deal. And then I also already talked about Enchanted Rock. I opened this one back up now that I'm looking into it. Again, you want another nice shot at Enchanted Rock. They also offer an archery either sex tag that will also allow you to go hunt their other stuff, which, like I said, has produced Aldad and other exotics in the past.
Yep.
So I think that's a no-brainer. And then 2 more that that are out there at Guadalupe River State Park. And then inside of that, they got the Guadalupe Bower Unit. So they're under gun neither deer. I could not find any data on these places past last year. But both the State Park hunt and the Guadalupe State Park Bower Unit hunt, between those two, both of those hunts produced all that. One of them, the State Park had 1, and the Bower Unit had 2. So I went ahead and threw that one in my mix as well. So there you go. So 16 potentials, and I just gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those 16 actually viable to go hunt an exotic through a non-specific exotic hunt. So again, just to kind of bring back some reference, guys, Andrew, who has not hunted a deer tag, or has not got a deer tag yet, but now has deer points, again, can now transition to go, hey, let me then take those points. I'm not going to go apply for all these other deer units. I just want my points to start going in and doubling my chances at these 6 hunts that give me a chance at. So instead of just having that small selection, we just added 6 more hunts to throw out there. And again, just for my buddy Andrew, just throw this one in the mix. Elephant Mountain, again, we talked about that in the mule deer. That is one of the mule deer units. And so if you are curious, Elephant Mountain Wildlife Management does actually offer a gun management whitetail deer hunt that also adds a mule, and actually that one is guided, which is kind of cool.
I think we talked about this one.
Yep, 3 spots, only 1,400 applicants. And actually, if you will go and read, do you have it in front of you?
I do.
Yeah. So the way that's what, again, I don't work for Texas Parks and Wildlife. This is not an official statement. But if I'm reading what they've wrote there, makes it really sound like it's, hey, yeah, if you don't want a whitetail, let's go after a mule deer. Because they wrote or.
Yeah, it says 2 whitetail deer or mule deer, either sex, limit 1 buck, guided.
Yeah. So I kind of think, man, so again, if you don't really give 2 craps about a whitetail management, but you have some points because you've put them in there, and your real goal is mule deer, and so, you know, again, let's say you had 6 whitetail management points. Well, what are most people with whitetail management points doing? Going after whitetail management and finding the best one. Might be a cool place to go look. So
the takeaway from this is, can't take it for face value what you're seeing on the website. And let's be honest, you can take it for face value. You can look at it, and you will be able to put in, and eventually you will probably draw. You've talked to a lot of different people recently, and a lot of these guys didn't have a big strategy. They just started applying, and eventually they drew tags, and they applied for the same tag again, and they drew it again in some cases.
Yep.
But if you really want a specific experience, you have specific goals, there is a way you can tailor your applications, and you can produce the results that you want to get the appropriate hunt, to chase the appropriate animal. You can work the system if you're willing to put in a little bit of work.
So from there, again, guys, tons of different categories, and those are all cool. Today we're just focusing mainly on the lane that is me and Andrew. And so again, if we're going to keep going down this lane of we're after exotics, well, then we've beat the specific to death.
Yeah, we beat the special permit, the special draw.
Right, to death. And I'll be honest, there really isn't anything in the e-postcard. And then the forestry is just deer anyways.
Yes.
And so that leads us to our next place to go try to knock out some exotics. And in all honesty, through the research this last month, statistically, as well as what I have gained by reaching out to people, watching videos, and doing, looks like this is really where we're excited. And guys, we had not paid much attention, and this is where actually we...
Well, for me, this is the first year that I'm applying for an NWR hunt because I just completely wrote them off before. I was like, National Wildlife Refuge, I'm not going to like it. I didn't do the research before this year, and I wouldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, so I dove into it. So National Wildlife. There are, when we dove into this, I dove into these hunts with the mindset of I was looking for opportunity to get myself into exotics. Now, I have not fully expanded this yet, but this is actually what drove me to want to do archery now. So I do need to expand, but I'm going to give you guys at least what we had from a gun/muzzleloader, because muzzleloader's already been on the table of interest. When we were at Dallas Safari Club last year, we were looking at Western hunting. Again, I have no points, but I really wanted to go. I wanted to go ASAP. I didn't want to wait around. And if you start using GoHunt, start sorting for muzzleloader, man, your odds get really better in a hurry. We were like, muzzleloader. Again, I'm not telling you to go do this, but if you go deep down the muzzleloader archive on YouTube, you start finding out they get it pretty expensive, but like you can get a muzzle loader that shoots further than what I tend to take shots at right now. So
with the center fire.
Yeah, with my center fire. So those are on the table. So if you are curious, through the National Wildlife Reserve, if we are looking at guns and muzzleloaders, that just expanded us up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more hunts to give us an opportunity.
As if you didn't have enough you wanted to apply for.
Yeah, if you didn't have enough already. If anyone's curious, for the record, I have spent upwards of almost $150 this year. And again, I know if you're comparing that to Western, that doesn't sound like a lot, but for a second, let's go back and remember, most of these are only $3. So you get an idea of how many I applied for.
I mean, when you're looking at some states like Arizona, you're dropping about $100-something just on the hunting license, and that's not even your application fees. And you have to buy the license.
Correct. I just think it's funny how, basically, I just applied for a lot of them.
Yeah, you did.
This is normally a thing where in years past, you've thrown like $40-50 at it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but now I've tripled that. That's what's funny to me.
Depends on your goals.
Depends on your goals. But here's what's really cool about this. So again, on these, there is no historical data, which is why I've done more research outside of data from a video forum talking to people standpoint. But based off of availability of hunt and people applying for it, this is where it actually starts getting realistic. And if you're like, how realistic? Well, to give you an example, Balcones Canyonland only had 1,700 people apply for it last year. There were 150 spots. So, kind of a cool deal there. Now, granted, that one's not an exotic, so I take that back. I added that one to the list because I did do it. I thought that one was interesting because of its percentage of draw. But it is a nice deer hunt, offers you turkey, and it does give you the ability blind or compartment. So I thought that was kind of cool. But essentially, that opened up our eyes to now the Nilgai antelope, which I knew what it was, just had never actually thought about hunting it. Nilgai run rampant in deep South Texas. Not where I'm from. I'm from top of South Texas. Deep South Texas, they run rampant, and I have heard forever that they eat amazing. And so you start looking into that. Well, you have multiple different places, but the one that intrigues me the most is Lower Rio Grande. And Lower Rio Grande gets broken into different units, I guess you could say. Yep. And I will tell you, the one that I'm super intrigued on is I still don't know how to really say it.
I say Teniente.
Teniente. That rifle hunt, right? So that is a rifle hunt in the exotic category. There's 4,300 applicants, but there are 60 spots.
Well, and you can also apply for that in the archery deer category.
Correct, you can, which actually we did. I think we did, yeah.
Yep, we did.
Yeah, we did that as a group of two. But Lower Rio Grande Valley has other ones. They have the east section, the La Salle del Rey, Ticolati or something like that, East Lake. They have all these different availabilities, and I mean they've got, like I said, between 60 to 30 something spots, with the largest applicant number being that the Tinian, whatever we're saying, at 4,300. But I mean, like, you've got the East spot, 36 spots, only 2,400. So that's really interesting. And then we have Laguna Atascosa, which is again rifle hunts. With exotic opportunities, and one of those is actually, again, I took those and then started applying my method.
Yep.
And sure enough, found that Laguna Atascosa under general deer had the ability for exotics, and there are only 3,300 applicants for 140 spots.
Yeah.
Which, again, I know for comparison, you're like, man, that still sounds super small, but in reference to what we're doing here, that's actually not bad. Now, this intriguing into this led me down the road. And here's the thing I will tell you. Through research, outside of the actual stats. No, actually, when it comes to the National Wildlife, so a really cool page, if you want to go check them out, is Adventure One or One Adventure?
Adventure One.
Adventure One.
They're a really great YouTube channel.
Yeah, dude, their videos are top notch.
That'll be in the show notes.
Right,
as well.
I did reach out. We were gonna talk, but then he ended up having a business deal he had to go to, and then he reached out to me the other day. I was like, "Hey, I got to talk later this week," but I was like, "We're recording the podcast," so I'm still going to. But those guys actually hunted Lower Rio Grande 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm. The Teniente.
Yep, they did, and had some success, and with bow.
Yep.
So that's really cool. I did actually talk to a guy. I got to talk to him for a little bit. Again, if you are listening and you don't live in the state of Texas, actually talk to a guy from South Carolina who drawled, literally had put in like 2 years, drawled this hunt, got out there, and on like the second day, kills a big old nilgai bull that had like 8-inch horns. Like a nice nilgai bull.
That's a big bull.
Yeah. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is actually, if you cast that net pretty wide on these national wildlife, they actually, looks like people really do pull them.
Yep.
Like, as in, like, this is a viable option, kind of.
They're probably your best odds.
I think so.
For certain exotics. Like, specifically like nilgai is one of the big
because, again, guys, just to back up, this conversation's been based around me and Andrew's goals.
Yes.
If your goal is to purely kill meat deer, so spikes, does, there are like
plenty of options.
Oh my God, there are some hunts in there that I'm not gonna say 100% draw odd, but we're talking like above 50% draw odd. Like, we're talking a couple hundred applicants for 50 spots.
Yeah.
So, you know, that does exist. And so I do think that brings up a cool, you know, kind of final closing thing on the data. You know, if your goal, if you weren't blessed like I ended up getting to be, or blessed like Andrew's honestly been with his luck with Western hunting.
I am pretty lucky with drawn tags.
You have been. And so if you don't have the luck like me and have the family that got to be born into a family of land and that opportunity, or just have the luck that Andrew's had drawing Western hunts, and you're like, man, I just really want to hunt, and I'd like to hunt in the beautiful state that we live in. If that's your goal, no. And so that's where I do hope to expand this thing one day, to get it to where I can go, hey, if somebody's like, hey, man, I just want to go hunt, then I can point you in the direction that's like, man, this is a pretty high percentile draw that you just get to go hunt.
Yep.
And one thing that's come up through me and Andrew's conversations, one of the goals for my spread, you know, for the spreadsheet as well, is to be searchable for compartment and blind. Yeah. And Andrew have talked a lot about that. For me, in some ways, some of these hunts, I don't care if it's blind. I'm gonna be honest on the axis at this point, because of what I've learned on the axis, and I want one so bad.
Yeah,
I don't care.
I mean, some of the hunts I've seen just watching on YouTube too, like, they need it. Like, some of these units, like, it's so thick, so dense. and they need to get rid of the animals, like the only way you're going to do it
Man,
is
I mean, we watched a video of the guy who kills a really nice Aldad at a baited...
And like 4 axes.
Yep, at baited station.
In 3 days.
If you think I'm turning that down, I ain't.
Me neither.
Yeah. But, yes, there are also some hunts that I want to do because of location. And if I'm doing them because of location, then, yes, I want the compartment experience.
Yeah, but the beautiful thing is you know what you want now. And you can craft your application strategy. You can use your points wisely so that you are only going to get the types of hunt that you want. And there are so many options that you could still realistically every couple of years do a hunt if you wanted to.
Yep.
And it all depends on what your goals are.
Yep, I agree.
All right. So to round things out, and we're going to come to a close because this is a very long podcast at this point. Hopefully y'all are getting some value out of it though. This is very deep dive. Obviously, a lot of it's focused on our own goals, but we have been trying to just share some general tidbits and information that we have. So there are options for you. You can figure out what you want to do. I know that we really dug into the weeds on a lot of this stuff, but if you know what you're wanting to get out of the Texas drone hunts, the options are there for you. So if you're brand new and you're just trying to figure this out and you don't know where to start, I mean, what do you think? What do you give the people?
If you already have your goal?
Yeah, like let's just say you have an idea of what you're looking for.
I think it starts with going to the website. I think it starts with go look in the general section. The general section is nice because it is already broken up by species.
Yep.
So go click it. Click on that species. Find a hunt that's cool. Look, for some people, especially in this day and time and economy, I mean, some of it might be location.
Oh, yeah.
So you need to find what based off the species you want to hunt, what is geographically actually reasonably close to me.
Yep.
Not everybody wants to drive 12 hours, and we all love this state, but if you've ever traveled out of this state, depending on where you're at and the direction you're headed, it could take all day.
Yeah.
And so, find that. And then I think once you kind of find those hunts that are specific to the species, right? You click it first. You find it. You go, man, this hunt's cool to me. It's close enough to me. I think this fits the bill for me. And then you go, okay, let's say you pick 3 of them. Well, what were the 3 locations? Then what I would do is go back out and go click that location, see what different hunts that location offers. Like through the map, and I know it's kind of difficult because you have to go back. If you go back, find the location in the map, it's going to give you a list of the hunts. Then you could actually go back in, look at the list of all those hunts for that location, see if any of those other hunts offer the ability to go after
whatever you're trying
your
to go
goal.
after. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that then that helps you say, hey, I'm going to cast a wide net. It's cheap enough to cast a wide net, and because of how the odds system works, my best chance at this one day is to cast a wide net and collect as many different points in different categories as possible. Yeah. I think that's the goal. And then I think as you would collect points, that's when I don't think, unless you're a freak like me and you're just into it, I don't know if I would dive as deep as I have into it until you had enough points for it to really start mattering.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd probably dive as deep as I have in the sense of like the forum and internet research
and YouTube videos
until you're like really finiting what place do I really like. And yeah, my hope and dream is one day to have this spreadsheet in a place where if a guy contacted me and said, hey, it's my son's first year, we don't own land, and I just want my son to go hunting, I could pull up 5 hunts that are like, here's a high percentile chance.
Yeah.
And
with decent odds
with
of
decent
you getting
odds,
something.
and here's what I would, throw it at to try to do that for them, or, that type of deal. But unfortunately, that is where this Texas is lacking. That does not currently exist.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what you're trying to do. You've got your spreadsheet. Again, so his Instagram page is quickdrawhunting_TX. Again, that'll be linked in the show notes. You can reach out to him. Taylor has graciously offered his spreadsheet. And if you're brand new to this, like Taylor said, you got to get the goal in mind first. Know what you want, and then just start looking through the Texas Parks and Wildlife page. Start there. Look at what the options are if you know that geography is an issue for you, just start with the map. You can look at the specific hunts that are closest to you and then write down those units. And like Taylor said, go back to those units, look at what the hunts they have to offer are. And if you want to dig into more than the surface level details, all of that data is there. You can use the spreadsheets that are available through Texas Parks and Wildlife. Taylor's spreadsheet's available. The information is out there, but it starts with you figuring out what is your goal and using that as the basis for your hunt plan and your application strategy.
Yep.
Anything else that you want to add in before we call it?
Yeah, I think I think what you just said in the regards to having to put in the work is a lot like hunting, right?
Yep.
I always think of, again, I said my biggest mentor is my grandfather, and I think about him a lot. And my grandfather used to always tell me, he goes, if it was that easy, they wouldn't call it hunting; they'd just call it catching.
Yep.
And so, man, nothing worth having. Nothing worth having is easy. Neither is hunting, and neither is the opportunity at a great hunt. So, hey, it's hunting, not catching. So go put in the work.
All right. I don't think we can end it on a better note than that. So I'm just going to call it and just say thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks.
You shared a lot of valuable information on this podcast. I have no idea how long it's going to be. It'll be the longest one for sure. But thank you. It's great.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to getting this one out there.
Me too. It's a pleasure. Thank you, brother.
All right, folks, that is it. I know it was a long one. I really appreciate it if you stuck around this far. I hope that you pulled some insights. It's got you thinking. If you have never considered the Texas public land drawn hunt system before, I hope that it's on your radar now. Please drop a comment on YouTube or on Instagram. Send me a DM. Let me know what you thought of the episode. I would love to hear from you. With that, you've been listening to us gab for long enough. I think it's time that we call this episode over, and I'll see you next time.